My guest at this time can be seen every Wednesday night as the leader of the Dark Order on AEW Dynamite. It is Mr. Brody Lee. Brody, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me here today.
You're very welcome. And I believe you said this earlier, but the pleasure is all yours.
It is. It is all mine. Well, of course it is. I'm in the presence of the Exalted One right now. I mean, how could I not be enjoying that sunshine there? Well,
What a present it is.
Brody, let's start off here real quick. You know, you just became AEW TNT champion. How have you been celebrating this big title win? What's it mean to you?
Well, I was drunk for 4 days straight, pretty much. And then I kind of resurfaced due to family obligations. But no, man, it's been absolutely spectacular. I was able to bring home the belt that night and put it in bed with my son so he could wake up to it. I have an 8-year-old son.
Okay.
So he was able to wake up to the TNT championship, which was a very, very cool moment.
Oh, man.
So yeah, it's been the pinnacle of a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, for sure, man. And so, wait, what's your drink of choice? You say you drank for 4 days. You're a beer guy? You're a whiskey guy?
I am a big beer guy, but unfortunately, it's not really conducive to my profession. So I usually go Tito's vodka.
Okay, wonderful. All right, yeah, I'm a beer guy too, but it's bad on the gut. I know
Right.
that. Well, you know, do you so what is your plan here with now that you have the AEW TNT championship? You know, Cody had this open challenge. You brought in all these indie guys. Are you going to follow that same path? How are you going to do it differently?
Absolutely not. I'm of the belief that you earn a shot at the championship. I don't think a Warhorse or an Eddie Kingston did anything to earn a championship match. So, as I said, I think last week, the open challenge is dead. Independent wrestlers on television on my watch is dead, and we will proceed from there.
Okay, wonderful. And do you have an update on Cody? Have you heard anything about Cody when he could be back after what you guys did and buried him and brought the casket out and everything? Are we never going to see Cody again?
I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not on your show.
Okay.
But I don't give a fuck about Cody. Cody was a obstacle in my way, and he had to be put out in order to establish me and the Dark Order as a threat.
Okay. And you guys have a big match here this weekend at All Out against Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, Natural Nightmares. You know, you talk about how it does seem like there's a change in tone now that you guys have been established. You have this title. What kind of a message are you looking to send here at the pay-per-view this weekend in this big tag match?
That's basically the thing. Since I've come in, I've been of the belief that I was here to pick up the Dark Order, to make it an entity of a different feel, a different vibe, a different output, I guess. And now that we've struck gold, for lack of a better term, we can't take a step backwards now. Yeah. So in an 8-man match, it's impossible if we don't go in there and show the Dark Order what exactly the Dark Order is, the new Dark Order, then we're taking a step back, and that is detrimental to me and to my success.
Okay. And, you know, what for you, you know, as the Exalted One, the leader of the Dark Order, you know, when did you find out that you were going to be the leader of this group? Was this the plan the whole time, or was this something that was brought to you? You came to them? How did this come about?
I've known Stu and Uno for, God, the better part of, I want to say 16 or 17 years.
Okay. Wow. That's
I know the people that trained Silver and Reynolds. They speak very highly of them. 5 and 10 and Anna Jay were students that I had seen and saw something in. I think Anna Jay is an absolute star and going to be a homegrown star for AEW for years to come. So, yeah, we're pretty much set up. Going that way. What was your question? I apologize.
My question, my question here was: were you always intended to be the leader of this group?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, is this something where you saw them on TV and were like, you know what? I think I could step up, or was this something they came to you with? How did this come about as you being the leader?
Last December, they've kind of, as a unit, lost their track, I guess, kind of got way off of what they were intended to be. At the same time in December, I was home, sitting in prison, just got released from WWE, not knowing what my next move was going to be. So we kind of were both down and out at the same time. And I saw it as an opportunity for me to jump into AEW and put myself right near the top, but also to have a pretty great backing too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. For sure. And, you know, talk to me about, like, so the original plan here, wasn't it supposed to be for you to debut in your hometown? At least that's what I heard and read.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. How
I had a pretty heartbreaking day on, I believe it was March 11th, which was the week before my debut was supposed to happen in Rochester. Um, Literally, we were making travel plans to get the family home, and so I was at the gym, watched President Trump make an address about the coronavirus, watched the NBA cancel their season, and then watched Tom Hanks come out on the news as positive for coronavirus. Literally all in a 5 to 10 minute range of 9 o'clock.
Man.
And went to bed that night thinking, okay, maybe everything's okay. Didn't really know the magnitude of the situation at that time. And then 2 days later, I believe, I got the call from Tony Khan saying, hey, we are canceling all these shows, but we will be running in Jacksonville. If you still want to debut, you're more than welcome to, but you're also more than welcome to not debut at that time. Man. And I chose to debut because I didn't know how long it was going to be. And I'd been sitting home for so long, I was dying to be a professional wrestler again.
How was that first day for you there? I mean, you spent so much time in WWE. You're finally in a fresh environment. What was it like for you to be in that AEW locker room?
Yeah, I remember telling Sean Spears at one point, I said, is everybody always this positive? Because something doesn't feel right to me. So it took a little getting used to in the beginning. But I love it. It's a very different feel, a very different vibe. Creativity there of mine is fulfilled. I go to bed happy at night, and I think that shows in the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with WWE, was it like a much more negative environment than what you get at AEW?
It was just very stifling. Not inherently negative to like outwardly negative, but a negative experience when I'm sitting home, I guess, and not being used and stuff like that. So that was the negative part. And so they weren't saying negative things to me per se, but
sure,
the feeling was negative.
I gotcha. And when you came to be the Exalted One of the Dark Order, a lot of people early on seemed to think that you were channeling your former employer in Vince McMahon. Was that
right?
Was that intentional? What did you think of the comparisons people made between you and what Vince would do?
Obviously, there was a couple of little Easter eggs and things that people could very easily pick up on.
Sure.
But as a whole, the character was never meant to be a Vince McMahon parody. But there was definitely a couple of jabs his way in the early going.
Sure.
Once I realized that was everything that people were going to talk about, I wanted to get away from that as quickly as possible. So, because I wanted it to be more about me, more about my identity, and more about my journey to where we're going. So, yeah, I just didn't want it to be. I didn't want to be seen as that bitter ex-employee. I didn't want that label on me whatsoever.
What did you think of the reports that apparently it may have raised the ire of the management at your former employer? How did you feel about those reports?
I have no problems with that whatsoever.
No? Okay, gotcha.
I rather enjoy that, and the thought of that, the thought of me, little old me, affecting someone there, yeah, that's okay with me.
I remember, I think it was at All In when Cody came out and smashed the throne. It may have been All Out, but in that presser afterwards, he's like, I think I've burned the bridge today. Did you have kind of a similar sentiment in your heart when you did, knowing you're like, I'm here now. There's no going back at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to even think about that. I'm so new here.
Yeah,
but you could look at professional wrestling, and it's very difficult to burn a bridge. So who's to say? And that's not for me. That's not my decision. That's above my pay grade. Yeah. All I can do is go out and provide the best product possible. And in the end, to me, in professional wrestling, if you're a star and you're providing content weekly that people want to see, you will always have a job.
For sure. Well, I want to take a step back here and again look at this match you have here coming up this weekend at All Out. Very interesting group. Your team, obviously, but the people you're wrestling against here. Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, QT Marshall, Dustin Rhodes. First of all, what do you think of Matt Cardona in AEW and much like yourself, getting to find some space to reinvent himself and show a different side of him?
That's a scary prospect to me because I know exactly how he feels. I know exactly what's going through his head right now. He looks in absolutely phenomenal shape. Matt Cardona is a scary prospect right now, and that's something we really have to deal with. Dustin Rhodes, always a scary prospect, but he's coming to get me because I've wronged him, in his head, because I disrupted his brother's career. Beside the point. But yeah, there's some very big problems on that other side, and we have already began to discuss that. But to me, Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, QT Marshall, and Dustin Rhodes as a unit, very formidable. It's a challenge. And again, we have to be up to the task to show exactly what this new Dark Order is. So not only do we have to beat them, we have to beat them in a fashion that is true to Dark Order.
Okay, well, I gotcha. And with Dustin Rhodes, just as a professional, and again, kind of, I know it's difficult for you to remove yourself from like the intensity of getting ready for this bout, but what do you think of his ability to just reinvent himself? I mean, 30-plus year career, he's shown so many different sides of himself at this point,
It's wild to me to be watching old footage of him, so many 25, 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
And watching him now, maybe be in better shape, maybe be faster, maybe be more precise. It's terrifying to think that the man with this much experience and this much knowledge is physically this good still. And his mind is right, and it's scary. It's very scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing but respect for Dustin. But again, respect doesn't stop me from punching and kicking a man in the face when the chips are down.
And, with Dustin and QT, they both look like they're going to be working on their own schools, or I guess QT more with Cody, and Dustin's going to kind of do his own thing. But, I mean, with you, man, you talk about the length in your career and all the people you've worked with. Are you in a headspace yet where you think about things like coaching and teaching or producing, agenting backstage? Or are you 100% focused right now on yourself and your in-ring career?
100% focused on my in-ring. I don't think the conversation will come on the other end with that, with the next part of the business, until I think I'm slowing down. Because once I start diverging myself too much with a family, with a career, with a school, then maybe I become weak in one aspect. So I want to definitely focus on AEW and the weekly product right now.
And lastly, I guess I ask you about Scorpio. A lot of people thought that he was going to be the guy to take that title before you were able to get your hands around it.
Yeah.
What do you think of Scorpio Sky? He's been cutting some very impassioned promos recently about himself and where he sees himself in the business.
And yeah, when we were waiting in the room with the camera crew, waiting to honestly speak to whoever won the match. I mean, I had my sights on Cody only because he had taken it to my guys a week earlier.
Right.
But if Scorpio Sky were to win that match, I got plenty to say to him too. And then again, looking in his eyes last week, with just the ring between us, there was something there that I didn't really feel easy about when he stared at me. So, But again, I'm not saying I have an open challenge, but once things settle down and Scorpio Sky earns his shot, I'd very, very much like to work against him.
Let's talk about the Dark Order here a little bit more. You're the exalted one here. A lot of fans would remember you from another group, the Wyatt family, where you were not the mouthpiece, right? You were more of the muscle.
Yeah.
How different is it for you getting to lead a group like this as opposed to be kind of a background player in a group, I guess?
Yeah, the Wyatt family was an awesome experience. We had an awesome run. We had, some of the biggest matches in WWE history. Our thing against the Shield was just unbelievable.
Right.
But to a point, it becomes too much background dancing, and to feel the need to break out when you can, and they just won't let you. That's where the frustration begins. So to be allowed now to stand in front of a group and to know that the big singles matches that are coming, the marquee singles matches that are coming to the group, are going to be coming to my table. So that's the huge difference to me, is just that now I'm the one that gets these marquee matchups. I'm the one that has these big feuds. I'm the one that holds the titles. So it's much better, I think, for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, with you it's interesting in this role because, like, you think about the different factions in history, right? And like with the NWO and all this. With you, I mean, like, you are the exalted one, and you are obviously, I think, from the outside looking in, the most experienced person of that group. Do you feel like a general kinship there with this group, and like you actually
100%.
feel some responsibility, and like you're helping to mold them and move them up as a unit on the roster alongside yourself?
Absolutely. Like I said, when I came in, it was my responsibility to not only move myself up the card, but to also pick up the pieces of what the Dark Order had become and move them up the card. And I think, we're slowly doing that. We had the tag title shot, didn't go our way. We did win a match against the Elite a week later, but, the gold is where, the power lies. And obviously, as soon as we got the TNT Championship, a lot more eyes were directed towards us. So that is always our goal. I do feel a huge kinship with these guys just because I know what Uno and Stu have struggled through for 15, 20 years. I've seen it. For 5, 10, Anna, for Sylvan Reynolds, for all these guys, this is their first shot at giant broadcast professional wrestling on a cable TV show weekly. This is their first shot, maybe their only shot. So, yes, I feel a huge responsibility for putting them in a good position to perform and putting them in the best position to show what they can do.
Yeah, awesome. And one of the names I wanted to ask you about is we brought up, the Wyatt family earlier. How do you feel about Eric Rowan still being a free agent out there? Are you still close with him? Is he somebody that you'd like to see brought into the company, maybe even brought into Dark Order down the line?
I'm great friends with Eric Rowan. I know he just had a pretty sweet acting gig coming off the release. I haven't discussed what his professional wrestling plans are. I think he's a man who's tailor-made for Japan. He's a terrifying, scary monster. It's all legit. I would never want to be caught in the alley with that man. As for AEW, again, that's above my pay grade. But I would never. If they came to me and said, "Do you want Eric Rowan here?" I could never say no. I love him. He's a brother. We do good business together. I think we're both okay with a little bit of separation, maybe for 5 to 20 years. But again, I think there will always be a time where me and Rowan get back together and tear it up.
That's awesome, man. And you bring up how great he'd be in Japan. I agree with you, but man, I look at you. I think the same thing, right? You're big terrifying American over there, raising hell. Is that I don't know what your AEW deal looks like, but I mean, could you do a New Japan match? Is there a chance we could see you pop up on like an indie somewhere?
I have the possibility to do both those things. I think the indie work will be a bit more selective. New Japan is always a bucket list kind of item for me. So if the right opportunity came along, I would love to do it.
Okay. And so you could go take I would imagine just in Japan though, right? Like you couldn't do the New Japan.
No, I'm not. Yeah. In America, I'm AEW exclusive.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Well, and lastly, I'll bring up here, the breaking news of the past 24 hours. There's a hot free agent on the market right now in Brock Lesnar. What do you think of Brock being free agent? Do you think it's a given he just winds up back at WWE? Or do you think that, a lot of fans are thinking what that would look like? Is that a possibility, you think, that Brock comes to AEW?
I mean, you have to look at every free agent, especially one of the magnitude of Brock Lesnar from a business side of things. You have to look at that from a professional wrestler side of things. I'm not sure that he's the best fit for AEW.
Okay.
But again, I'm not in management. I've been in the ring twice with him, so I'm clearly not afraid of him. So if he was to be here, I have the championship, so if he wants to, start somewhere, I welcome him.
Okay. Wait, but why do you think that he would maybe not be a good fit? I'm interested to hear your reasoning behind that.
I think we got enough monsters here to be fair. And like I said, if he wants to be the monster in town, then he's going to have to come through a few of us.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I think about you, Lance, Brian Cage. You're right.
Right. That's the thing. Like, man, I don't give a shit. Like, if you're gonna tease coming to the company, then you have to expect this. And like I said, I'm not afraid of anybody, and this is what I do for a living. So let's do it.
All right, man. Well, I don't think that I could get a hotter comment here to wrap up the interview than you challenging Brock Lesnar to a TV title match. So
I look forward to those headlines.
I'll go out on top here. Mr. Brody Lee, thank you very much for the time. Is there anything that you would like to plug, promote, put over here before we wrap up today?
No, man. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Just please watch the product weekly. We literally put our hearts and soul into it every single week. I think there's something very, very special here, looking in people's eyes in the back. And I think we're being part of history. And I hope people understand and realize that in the moment.